Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of a Pretty Little Podcast. I'm Allie Violet Vixen Commissaro, and I'm here with Jesse.
Hi guys, welcome back. This has been in the works for so long, and I am so excited that the time has finally come. So please, Allie, get into the intro.
Joining us tonight is the incredibly talented guitarist Brian Quinn, known for his work with Candlebox, Octane, and Foster Child. With his signature style and years of experience, he's a driving force in rock and roll. Let's dive into his journey, tales from the road, and stories from the stage. Please welcome the one, the only, Brian Quinn.
Hello.
Hi, ladies. How are you?
We're good.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. We're so excited.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This is a long time coming. We've been talking about this for a long time.
And the time is finally here, and I am more excited than ever. So
Awesome. Well, glad to be
So
here.
we gotta jump in with, what is the first song that you ever learned on guitar?
Much like everyone else, I would Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple. Just
yeah,
it was, I was a kid in the 80s, young kid in the 80s, but I had two older brothers that were quite a bit older than me. Like, not crazy older than me. Like, my next oldest brother was maybe 5 years, and then my next brother was like 9 years older than me, but they were both musicians, and they were just into the raddest music ever. That still holds up today. Black Sabbath, like Ozzy era
yes.
Black Sabbath is still, that's my band. That's it.
Some of the bass riffs in there are. I will go back and I will listen to those albums, and I'd be like, I can't believe they wrote this stuff.
Yeah, that was it. I mean,
Like,
they had the metal, and they were just so killer.
I
So
know.
I grew up on a lot of great music because of my brothers being, having a few years on me and just kind of guiding me to hear some great music. So yeah, that's where I started. But my first one that I actually figured out by ear was Smoke on the Water, which is a very common story for guitar players, especially guys like in my era.
I love that.
Now, what would you say is your like go-to guitar when you're trying to write like a crazy riff?
My go-to guitar to write is it's kind of funny. It's a cheap $110 Yamaha acoustic guitar that I bought in a jewelry store in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania in 1992. And
Wow.
I've written every hit, and every song that I've ever written was on that crappy little acoustic guitar. I don't know what it was. It was sitting on the back wall. It was like had all this energy and vibe coming off of it, and I just
It's
picked it up.
infused with magic.
Yeah, it was $100, and I found, and the building isn't even there anymore. It's like in Wilkes-Barre, it's like a parking lot now. But yeah, I found that, and honestly, like, I picked that guitar up still to this day, even like the strings are all old and like crusted out and green and banged up, and that guitar just has songs in it. As far as my electric guitar, my number one is a 1989 Les Paul Standard. It's back
I was
there.
looking at the wall back there. I was like, oh,
It's back there in the center. That was my very first guitar that I got. My very first Les Paul I got when I was 15. It was a gift from my aunt, my mom's younger sister, who she had ended up contracting a very rare form of leukemia and passed away when I was 16. But that guitar is gone all over the world with me. So I retired it from international touring in
mhm.
2017 or 18. It got lost in England. British Airways lost it for 2 days. So once I got it back in the States,
You're
that was it. I won't. I'll travel domestically with it, but not
right.
internationally.
That's a lot of sentimental value in an instrument. That's really cool. It's like a memorial. You get to think of your aunt when you play that.
It's priceless. Well,
Yeah.
it's priceless. I mean, it's a lot of notes on that. Like every band I've ever had, that guitar was there before I owned, multiple ones. Like that was it. Like that guitar is
Mhm.
it. A lot of road wear on it too. Just yeah.
I was gonna say there's
Now,
so much talent that's come out of Wilkes-Barre.
There it
It's
is, yeah.
amazing.
Most definitely.
It was kind of funny because when I had, where I grew up, and being like Wilkes-Barre, I grew up right near Wilkes-Barre, right in between Wilkes-Barre and Scranton.
Mhm,
So, there really wasn't a whole lot of prospects for you to
mhm.
get out of there being a musician, and, being right near Manhattan, we're, 65 miles from Manhattan, 65 miles from Philly, we're right in the middle,
Yeah.
and I just decided to come to Philly when I was a kid. I had moved out when I was 17 to go to college, and, I decided on Philly only because I thought it would have been a little more digestible, being a kid, being that young, not still a teenager. And then the music scene, and I had been in the hardcore scene in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton,
I
like
know, it's hu
around.
Title Fight, Cold World,
Yeah,
like, all these huge bands. I always think that's, like, so interesting. It was, like, had a like, there's something in the water or something like that,
yeah,
and
yeah.
all these bands.
That was it. Yeah, Wilkes-Barre hardcore was just it was a thing at the time. Our area code was still 717, so it was
Mhm.
717 hardcore, and we spent a lot of time with a lot of the guys from Long Island and Brooklyn. So we played a lot with Biohazard and Agnostic Front and Life Abandoned,
Wow.
and like us and Vision of Disorder started at the same time. So we did a lot of shows with VOD. Like the early days, I was only like 15 or 16 years old, so but we were all that's where it all started for me was the hardcore circuit.
That's
I'm
so
gonna put you on the spot. What is your, like, standout moment from your career? If you had to just off the top of your head.
Well, getting to play a concert with Ozzy was pretty badass. We did Rock USA with him in shit. I say maybe 2018. I think it was. I don't recall the years, but the shows I could tell you everything about the shows. It's the years that are hard. So
that's
we
so
getting
cool.
to open for Ozzy and hang with him, and I've known Zach Wild for a long time, but never really got to meet Ozzy. And I met Ozzy that day, and it was fucking rad.
That's
Like,
such a full
he's
circle experience because you
yeah.
just were talking about, like, how you got into music, so I can only imagine what that felt
Was
like.
he everything that you imagined he would be?
Yeah, he was cool. I mean, he wasn't in the greatest of shape, but
Yeah.
yeah, he was cool. Said hello, got a picture with everybody. He was kind of very non-personal, I guess. But just
Yeah.
the fact I got to talk to him for a minute and say thank you for the
Cool.
music, that was my dream as a little kid was to play guitar for him. So just getting to meet him and hang out and be on a show with him was killer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That kind of leads us into our next question because you were a fan of Candlebox before you ever hit the stage with them.
Yeah.
Just wondering, did any of the songs take on a new meaning to you after joining them?
Well, certainly the ones I wrote with them, yeah. Um, the ones that I guess that have been recorded prior to, I just, I really appreciated all of Peter's work, Peter Klett, who was the OG, who's back with them now. Um, but yeah, I always appreciated his work. Like that time in rock and roll, uh, the industry was inundated with a lot of rap metal stuff.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when Candlebox came out, I'm sorry, not so much rap metal stuff, but it was like it was like the post grunge stuff, but it wasn't cool to play guitar solos. And when Candlebox came out, like they were kind of really, I mean, grunge really only lasted a couple of years. It wasn't
Mhm.
everybody thinks it was like this an entire decade of music. It wasn't. It was only a few years. And it happened like my freshman year in high school. I was like maybe 14 or 15 years old. It only lasted till I was 16.
Yeah.
And then all these post grunge bands started coming out, which were a lot of great ones, Candlebox included. And Candlebox was like the first band that was an actual Seattle band that came out. And Pete was the first guy to start doing solos again because for some reason guitar solos were like not a cool thing to do. And
They feel out of favorability.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was like, growing up as a kid, like when I started playing guitar, it was all the '80s glam metal, so it was just you had to be the most badass like lead guitar player of all time to even get a nod, like for a label to even come look at you. So
Rich
Candlebox
sound.
bridged that gap. Yeah, they Candlebox bridged that gap. So I always had a deep respect for those guys. And then uh prior to like me even finding out about them, the girl I was dating at the time was like, "You got to hear this band. They're un- they're sick, and they're like this dude is playing guitar solos again." Like she was a rock chick, so it was kind of cool. And we went down to Philadelphia and saw them open for Rush in '94. So I was sitting in the audience watching them, and like almost 18 years to the month, I joined the band.
That's
That's so
sick.
amazing.
Yeah, it was funny.
That's
It was
really
weird.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's like,
So
oh, I did.
what's been the strangest or most unexpected place that you found like inspiration for a song?
Uh, man, the strangest place. I don't know. I don't look like there
I
might even
like to
be
ask those questions
places.
that get you thinking.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good one. That's a great question. I mean, the place is kind of a what you're asking place. The mental place. There's a physical place. There's been mental places, physical places. It's very hard to narrow down because it just depends on what you're asking me. And like if you're
Your
asking,
definition, it can be
right?
weirdest or strangest, most unexpected, however you take that.
So yeah, I mean, what I don't have my job isn't normal, so I've wound up in a lot of strange places, mentally, physically, just creatively. So uh, I would say I don't know if it's strangest, but I'd say the most inspiring place. I wrote a lot of music at my buddy has a shore house in Orange County. Uh, the hell is it? He's in uh Blackie's bar is there. I'm trying to think of the name of the town. It's in Orange Beach. It's like Orange County, California. He's right
Mhm.
on like 68th Street. No, Newport Beach. So
Newport.
that was like the most inspiring place I've been. It's just it- mentally I've been, yeah, that's kind of a weird spot. Like that song Gasoline I wrote for Octane, which ended up becoming our like most popular song. Uh, I wrote that about a girl I was dating in college right before I'd met my wife.
Mhm.
My wife and I met in college, and yeah, the girl I was dating before her, yeah, Gasoline was kind of written about her because she was a lot to handle. So that may have, I guess, been the strangest place as far as like I guess like where I wrote Gasoline was in like this back room bedroom. I I had to stay for extra credits at Westchester University for a summer,
Okay.
and my buddies, all my friends were on the football team, and I was staying at the football house, but they didn't have like a regular bedroom, so like there was this, it was a bedroom and then this huge bathroom, and then like this, it's almost like they looked like they made this long closet into like a makeshift bedroom, and I wrote a lot of a lot of the songs that appeared on records that came up, whether it was on Octane or Foster Child, depending on when they made an appearance. So the strangest place was in that back weird like closet bedroom. I went nuts. It was just covered. The walls were covered with lyrics and paper and guitar. I only had a couple guitars at that point.
Is your
That
little creative crypt?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that, I guess maybe that would be the strangest place. That's a great question. That was a
The
Mhm.
really
next one, I have literally been waiting 2 years to ask you.
all right.
So you are known in the industry as being the most professional musician. You have like the best reputation, and everybody says that you always have it together.
Mhm.
Have you ever had a Spinal Tap moment?
Yeah, oh my god, yeah, a million. They always
So
happen,
they
especially
involve
yeah.
Danny.
Well, yeah, I'm sure 100 of them did. Uh, that 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 era got a little is always a little foggy. But yeah, always being like super professional. Yeah. there's always Spinal Tap moments, like getting walked to stage and somebody goes to the wrong door, and like I always joke about it. Like, there's two movies. My favorite movie ever is Almost Famous, which Cameron Crowe did, and Cameron
Great movie.
did singles with all the Seattle guys, and then and Spinal Tap. So I always joke about it. Almost Famous and Spinal Tap are the two movies that are honestly like closest to the what actually happens on the road. Yeah, I don't even know if I could pick out any, but it's like it just they happen all the time. Like my guitar tech getting lost, just walking me to a stage. Having a blowout tire on the bus in the middle of the desert in Arizona, and like everybody's out there with their phone lights because like our bus driver was like a little too big to get shit done. So like we're out there helping him change a tire. Like you're in a multi-million selling band, multi-platinum band, and you're out there changing the tire. I was like, I thought all that shit was behind me, but it's not. We always joke about it. We call it same shit, different diaper. It's just a
Yeah.
bigger diaper, you know.
Oh man. I
So
love
this
that. I
no,
was
go
gonna say,
ahead.
go Allie. Go Allie, you're good.
Okay. So I was gonna say, if you had to play the same guitar pedal for the rest of your career, which one would it be?
It's the same pedal, like a
Mhm.
oh shit. It'd probably be the MXR micro amp. That's my
Okay.
secret weapon that's on my pedal board. So what that does and how I use that is it takes whatever's coming out of my amps. I was all as a I in the era I came up in, you always relied on your amp. So I don't use stomp boxes or like distortion boxes or anything like
I
that.
was gonna say
Yeah,
definitely bands right now, you got like 15 pedals on it, but I know a lot of guys from that play from that era and they still plug directly into the you know,
yeah.
into the
Yeah,
amp.
so, like, I still use tube amps. I know a lot of
Mhm.
guys, they're starting to get away from it now, but for, like, the last maybe 8 or 9 years, guys were using, like, these little pedals that were actual amps or, like, fractal units or, whatever. So, I didn't come up in that. I still use some great tube amps, but, like, my prerequisite is that I get a great breakup and a distortion coming from the amp and
Mhm.
out of the cabinets that I use and the speakers that I use. So what that MXR micro amp does, it like all these other things have like a million dials on them.
Mhm.
The MXR micro amp has one dial that's this big, and it's just gain, and it doesn't give you any more. It doesn't give you any more distortion saturation. It
Yeah.
doesn't make your guitar sound heavier. It just
Mhm.
takes what's coming out of my amplifiers and my speakers and does that, and just makes it a little snottier and larger. So but when I hear it, I'm like, and I'm still a guy that uses speaker cabinets behind me because I like feeling the air on the back of
Mhm.
my legs. Like when I'm hitting a chord, I feel the air on the back of my legs from speakers. So uh, when I hit that micro amp, it's just it's insane. It's like doing this. A great instance is the solo for Far Behind. I crack that on and Far Behind, and it's just like it's so loud, and then you hear it if we're playing a bigger spot like Camden or whatever, like something like a shed that size,
I
uh,
love
just
that.
hearing that, just hearing what that sounds like, 'cause we could hear the fronts for the most part.
Mhm.
We're not in air. Candlebox doesn't wear in ears, so it was all stage wedges, just like we're playing JC Dobbs. It's stage wedges. It's fucking loud on our stage.
I love that you play with tube amps because I think that there's tube amps give like a certain sound that can't be reproduced.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, true. Yeah, the technology they have now, where it was 10 years ago,
Mhm.
they're it's it's impressive what they can do with it. Uh, I'll use some of it maybe in a studio because I don't need it to be be what I was just talking about live.
Mhm.
But live, I've tried using a couple things and it only lasted maybe 2 shows. I'm like, "Nah, this is garbage. I'm not using this. I'm just very set in my ways." I'm
I
I'm
watched this thing
I'm too old to go back out the woods.
No, I love that because I literally just watched a thing the other day. I think it was like Wilkes-Barre or something. They were talking about their setup and like
Right.
what are you using, and they were like, we still use the shitty stuff from like the '90s because it gives us the sound that we use. And I was thought to myself, I was like mind blown. Like, of course they're still using the stuff from back then, you
Yeah.
know?
So, like, a really good friend of mine, had been teching for Billy Corgan for
Mhm.
years, with Smashing Pumpkins, and he was using, like, these 4 units. They're basically computers,
Yeah.
that just, like, now they make them where they're in your pedal board, like, the whole pedal
Mhm.
board is one gigantic computer, so that's your amplifiers and your effects and everything, and Billy apparently was using them for a while. I mean, I wasn't on that tour or anything, but this is just what his tech was telling me. I was interviewing him for the column that I write for Guitar Thrills magazine,
Okay.
and he said, "Yeah, they're all done. They're not. No one's using. They're using like maybe these units now, just maybe for the effects, because they
Mhm.
don't have to carry around like 1,000 pound analog board with like heavy pedals on it, and they're using it for that, but." A lot of these guys now are just going back to the tube amplifiers just 'cause they're tried and true. It's like,
I
what do you
I've definitely seen that. Even, like, myself and my own music, I've been, almost like, I've been kinda like, I did a recording recently without any, without any pedals on it, and I actually liked the way it sounded better. Like, I was
Yeah,
like, "It's crazy." Like,
yeah.
that's another thing going full circle.
You said without any what on it? If
Without any pedals,
so
without
many
I turned the distortion off, and I was like, "I sound great." I was like, "You know what? We're going." I was like, "This sounds like I Hate God right now." Like,
Yeah, oh, yeah, Jimmy Bauer, yeah, right on.
mhm.
Cool.
I was
Yeah,
like,
I think you're echoing a little bit,
I think I am
at
too.
least on my
it
end.
was alright. I think it's great now. Yeah.
You should be good.
Yeah.
So, real quick, I want to ask you, what was your favorite song to get up and play with Candlebox?
From their previous, catalog of, stuff I wasn't on, Change was my favorite one from the first album. I love
Mhm.
playing that song, I love playing that song live with them. It would show up it would really depend. It was always maybe 3rd or 4th, on the set list, like, so if we do a festival show, we have a shorter set time, obviously, so, we kinda gotta we lean pretty heavily on the first record. When we do our headlining shows, it was a 90-minute show, so we really got to dig into all the other stuff. But yeah, from the first record, Change was my favorite one to play. Um, Acoustic, when Kevin and I would do the acoustic tours, I always really enjoyed Miss You. And then from the stuff I wrote with the band, we had only performed it live maybe I think once or twice, and that was I Got a Gun. That's on Disappearing in Airports. Uh, All Downhill from Here was kind of cool to do. That was the first track off of Wolves. That was always a good one live. People just I don't know why they dug that one. They just did. And we would open with that whole Wolves tour. We opened with that every single night, and the place just went ape shit, which was kind of cool.
And I wanted to ask you, do you feel that any of the songs didn't get the proper acknowledgement that they should have, or they kinda got overlooked because of events going on?
Yes. Oh, yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, we released multiple singles off the records that I was on with the band. But, just the way the industry is now, it's just so oversaturated and with artists in every genre you could think about. That's um yeah, I guess it did. It certainly got overlooked as far as like our hardcore fan base. No, like the answer to that's no, because we were filling pretty good sized rooms on all, even on our headlining shows, like, anywhere between 3 to 6, 7,000 people. And then when we would do um, like a tour with Three Doors Down or Bush or Jerry Cantrell, it was getting up there above that. So
Mhm.
yeah, as far as it being overlooked, no, not really. I mean, it's really just we would have a whole different we could have a whole separate podcast on just the state of the music industry and why stuff the why music doesn't reach where it should have with
Oh,
bands that
I actually had to condense what what I was going to ask you, because if I just went by everything that I write down, like just thinking about it, like we could have been here for like 4 hours.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
And you're a really
Yeah.
busy guy. So we'll get into real quick. I want to know a little bit about writing and how you got into writing for the magazine.
Oh, writing for the magazine, that kind of just came out of nowhere. It was as big a surprise to me as it was to anybody else. Uh, my I was saying my wife is a rock publicist and she does a lot of writing. She
Cool.
uh she represents not only Candlebox but Violent Femmes and Blues Traveler. But there's a point in her career that she represented Iron Maiden, Steve Vai, and Judas Priest. So I mean, what big acts. So
Okay,
Mhm.
then.
um,
I love that.
she yeah, and she's an outstanding writer. And she had just said to me when she had been I don't know if she was proofreading stuff for that magazine, and she said, "Hey, the editor in chief just hit me up and said, would you be interested in writing?" And I was always a creative writer. I always enjoyed writing. So I was like, "Yeah, why not? I'll give it a shot. Why not?" And it it worked, and it was all right. The only thing that got in the way was my touring schedule, which I
Mhm.
don't have to worry about now. So um, yeah, I'll probably be doing some more writing with them. And then I got to interview a bunch of not friends of mine, but artists that I just really, had a deep respect for. So he was kind of giving me he would say, "Hey, do you want to interview this person? Do you want to interview that person?" I was like, "Well, I'm on tour with this person. Could I interview them?" And it just kind of went that way. And then he wanted me to do a couple, like, I was a history major in college. I got my degree in history education. So
Mhm.
anything that I could do to kind of incorporate music history into the magazine, I tried to
Mhm.
do. So I did a big a large article on Sister Rosetta Tharpe, who was, she literally started rock and roll far, like, long before Elvis
Mhm.
and Little Richard and any of those guys. Like, Chuck Berry, like, based his entire career off of what this woman, this gospel, heavy said gospel woman that played a, a badass guitar back in the late 40s and early 50s. Chuck Berry based this whole thing on. Chuck Berry was like the basis of rock and roll, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just think music history is so interesting and how things come full circle too. Like I feel like it takes so much time for some of these people to get their recognition, like Iggy Pop, and just like people like that.
Yeah,
Didn't see like I feel like Iggy Pop didn't see recognition for so long. And right now we're seeing fucking Bobby from Pentagram is going viral right now.
right. Yeah, he's been
And
around
he's
forever, and that band is like so influential on so much metal. Yeah.
Last Days Here is one of my favorite albums,
It's
and
so good.
it's so good, and
It's so good.
seeing, one, they could have been as big as Black Sabbath. They were supposed to go on tour with Kiss. They could have done so much, but it's
Yeah,
just, amazing, how much roots that has and how influential, Last Days Here and all those songs were, and finally, we're starting to see, I was like, "Is Pentagram about to go mainstream? This is crazy."
yeah.
But,
What 30 or 40 or more years after the fact, right?
I know. It's,
Yeah,
insane.
yeah,
But, music history is awesome, and that's so cool that you're a history major on top of that you were a history major on top of that, so there's, such a good passion because I watch a lot of music documentaries too,
yeah, yeah.
you know, there's, there's like 2 ones on death and stuff like that. I would love if you made like some sort of content where I could watch something like that.
I should
Talking about
be better
that.
with that. Yeah, I should be better with it, with especially with content creation. I get I like I'm more it's just a part of the industry now, like
Mhm.
that you got to be an equal content creator and still a creative like artist, like a person that's just trying to create out of thin air.
Yeah.
Uh, and hope you emote something from somebody, but then now on top of it, I got to spend half the time putting up Facebook posts and that shit. To be honest,
I'm just gonna throw it out there. Anytime that you wanna do a live where you're playing the slide,
oh wow,
like,
cool. Thank you.
that's
Thank
that's
Yeah.
always, like, something
I
that we
appreciate
wanna
it.
see.
Yeah, that's been a niche of my guitar playing that's it doesn't get that much recognition or screen time
Mhm.
in hard rock and metal, but because I'm a avid blues fan and grew up
I got to see you play
playing
live,
blues.
it's
Yeah,
amazing.
I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, yeah, and then just the Allman Brothers were also a mega influence on me, and then getting to play guitar for an Allman, and not only getting to play guitar for an Allman, but slide guitar for an Allman, and then play all of his Uncle Dwayne's
That's
guitar
so
parts.
cool.
That was a trip. That's
Weren't you
what I was doing
sponsored at
prior
one
to
point?
I'm sorry.
Weren't you sponsored at one point for the slide, or you had a slide that was
Yes,
custom
yeah, I
built
had
for
my
you?
own. Yeah, I had my own yeah, like actual slide, like a signature slide with a
That's
company,
cool.
Songhurst Guitar Company out of they're in Oregon. Danny and I like always stayed in touch, and just the way that those endorsements worked, you kind of you move a little bit here and there. But I actually just gotten back in touch with Danny, and we're working on a new thing. So I'm excited about that, which is kind of cool. But yeah, yeah, I love playing slide guitar. I love all the blues stuff. The solo record that I'm working on is going to incorporate a lot of that. Just to because I never really get a chance to do it with the hard rock and
Yeah.
certainly metal stuff.
That's awesome.
That's
Yeah,
really
I
cool.
definitely I would love to see lives with that. Like,
Yeah,
it's, like, just hypnotizing to me. Like,
yeah,
I can just sit there and listen to that forever. Like, I mean, I really only got to see it twice. I got to see you play, and I got to see Jimmy Marciano, and,
yeah,
like, I just love it. Like, I get so excited. Yeah, John kinda threw it out there that you had been sponsored at one point, and I was like,
yeah.
it's just such a cool thing, and do you think that you'll ever kind of incorporate that with future projects?
Oh yeah, yeah. We have one is on the way for sure. I just you know, I like deal after I gotten done with Mike Allman and then in Candlebox, there just really wasn't a spot for it. Like you don't want it to be, it does have its roots in Southern music and blues music, so it's I've used it a bit, but not to the extent like in a band like Candlebox. Just it didn't the recipe didn't call for it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So, but yeah, with my solo stuff, it certainly calls for it. I mean, gasoline with Octane. That was one of my solo songs. That wasn't even going to end up on the Octane record because it was just I felt so far left field from what we were writing and what we are doing, and at the time, what we're the cover music we are doing as well. Um, but the guys in Octane really wanted me to put it on the record. We recorded it, put it on the record, and it ended up becoming our most popular song. So that was encouraging that happened. So I'm writing all of my solo writing is in that ilk, a little more. It's hard rock and it's heavy, but there's slide guitar and it's a lot more blues based than probably even more blues based than Foster Child was.
So let's talk about Octane a little bit because you guys are playing the MM barbecue, and that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
how does it feel? I like Candlebox you walked into. Octane,
Mhm.
that's your baby. Like you were a founding member. Like, how does it feel? I mean, you had 2 shows. They both sold out.
Yeah.
I was at the first one.
Yep.
So I got to witness the like, I mean, wall to wall people. It
Yeah.
was insane. When you guys
Yeah.
put that video up, just like as a little montage, I mean, people were like crying. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, like this is amazing.
Yeah. It is nice. Man, I never even really sat to I did an interview, with the podcast last week, and he
Mm.
was asking me about, like, my career retrospective, and I never really sit down and honestly, I don't give it thought because I'm day to day, it's like, "All right, thank God I'm here, I'm blessed to be doing what I love to do today and move forward." So I never really think about what's happened, and then when I sit and talk about it, I'm like, "Shit, wow, yeah, that was a really, really cool time in my life." And, yeah, it's great doing the Octane thing. I'm glad to do it. I'm happy to do it. We're writing some new music. We'll put out, like, the 3rd record that we said we are gonna put out
Mhm.
15 years ago. We're gonna do that, and, yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it. Truth be told, I don't I'm not a rewind guy. I'm a forward guy. I wanna keep going that way. So,
Yeah.
I'm happy to do this with them, and we'll do it, and if something happens, we're joking about it, like, with the MMRBQ coming up and everything with them. I was like, "Well, shit, that only took 20 years." And
You guys
it was
look
20
like you
years,
have
like,
so much fun though. Like,
oh,
I
oh,
mean,
yeah. Yeah,
like I came in at like I saw you a couple times at Reed's like back in the day. And like that was one of the things about Octane that like I mean, you and Brian Boynton, I can't say his last name ever, but you guys are like so fun to watch.
yeah, yeah. I love it. It was a great time in my life, and like, we're always so close, all of us,
Mhm.
like, we just always got along. It was a good thing, and then to your point, like, yeah, that was my baby. Like, me and Bortnick started that, so it's like that was our thing. And when it's your thing, I guess it it's a little sweeter when success comes along. I don't want to make it sound like I'm diminishing or sounding non-grateful for being a hired gun and like the
Yeah.
situation that I've had as a hired gun because they've been fantastic too. But like when it's your own thing, it's your own music. Like I don't have to go and learn anything. I just have to remember what I wrote.
It's
Like
your
that.
vision.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, right. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna write some more and put something else out, and then I'm gonna move on.
So, what can fans expect from new music?
Well, from the Octane music,
Mhm.
the Octane stuff. I mean, exactly what it was. Just high energy and like that's that Octane is like my metal outlet, and then my solo stuff is my blues and hard rock outlet, and like I guess country to a point, but not really country. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't I won't paint myself into a corner on how I write because I love so much stuff like Cannibal Corpse and Slayer are 2 of my favorite bands, that have ever existed, but so is Bob Dylan and the band, and so is the Allman Brothers, and so is Black Sabbath and Ozzy, and, I was a classical guitar major in college, like, if it's something that that emotes, that it makes me feel some kinda way, that makes the hair on my arm stand up. That's it. I paint a really, really wide stroke with the music that I dig.
Are there any what newer bands or new releases have kinda given you that feeling where you start getting goosebumps?
New stuff, not a whole lot.
Much?
Not a whole lot. There's been like songs here and there that have done it.
Mhm.
Dirty Honey, I thought was cool. Like they came out and I was like, all right, these guys are young cats and they're they're fucking cool. I don't think what it would any of the other bands that we were out that I was like, oh yeah, man, these guys got something happening. There's a band called the Parlor Mob, but they were kind of like my age ish. Years ago, they're a New York band. They were outrageously great. I thought they were gonna blow up. Like they were piss and vinegar rock and roll, and I really thought that they were gonna explode. If you guys have a second, check out Parlor Mob.
I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah, they put out a record. I want to say it was on Roadrunner Records, and it was the name of the record is "And You Were a Crow." So what blew me away about that is like when I heard Greta Van Fleet, I'm like, this sounds exactly like Parlor Mob. And I like Greta Van Fleet
Yeah.
songs. Like there's songs by them I really dig. But I was like, man, these guys were doing this 15 years ago, and they were just one of the baddest bands I ever heard in my life.
That's
Uh,
sick.
yeah, like
I'm definitely gonna have to check
you
them
know,
out.
it's like bands that have been around for a minute that are like putting out new stuff, like Mastodon. They're always killer.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, they always have great shit. They evolve with every recording that they do. I don't know. I think I'm just kind of unfortunately I'm a little stuck in my ways that I don't listen to a whole lot of new stuff these days. I used to work like back in the late 90s, I worked at Tower Records and I had my finger on the pulse of everything that was new, everything. And it didn't matter the genre. I'm
Mhm.
just I dig what I dig now. And that's what I was talking about, like that broad stroke. Because I'm still discovering old stuff from
Yeah.
like like the band Death. And like I just ran across like their
No.
record, their record after Individual Thought Patterns, which was a masterpiece. And I
Individual thought pattern is it's
yes, right.
there's it, like pioneering is an understatement for that
Yeah,
album.
yeah,
It's proggy. It's
yeah,
proggy.
yeah,
Prog
right.
was I was
Yeah,
like, "Oh," like, you can listen to that album and it's like some of this stuff is like chopped liver, and this thing came out what? Early
it's like
90s.
25 years ago, and it still holds up now. It's better than most of the stuff that's out.
Chuck was a genius, and the
Yeah,
fact
right.
that Def
Yeah,
had a revolving door, like, of members, what it
yeah,
like, usu that that's fails a lot of bands because they don't have a consistent sound. What it did for Def, it just pushed the envelope,
yeah.
and having all these creative minds. The Florida 90s Florida death metal scene,
It was sick.
I
Yeah,
can't even I can
yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah. And then in that same era, although they weren't from Florida, but the, one of my favorite records of all time is Sepultura Beneath the Remains. Like that's I
So
heard that
good.
and I was like, oh my God, these guys are doing something that
Yeah.
no one else is touching. And they're from Sao Paulo,
Mhm.
Brazil. But they were falling right in line with a lot of that super cool shit that was coming out of Florida at that time. Cannibal Corpse, especially.
Mhm. There is so much these bands, it's like, it's incredible what the influence that these 90s bands are still having today. Like, we have riffs in my band that I'm like, "That is straight up sepultural worship right now."
Yeah,
Like,
right.
we ripped that baby, like, that is straight up sepultural worship, and we're a grind band. So,
Right. Yeah,
so, you know,
yeah, I
it
love
is
it.
it is, like, amazing how much influence, and I do feel like, I a lot of bands right now are trying to I like that a lot of bands are trying to push the genre. I always wanna say you wanna push the genre further to what it can be. Like, that's what I love about you adding, like, the slides to, metal songs and stuff like that, or just, like, you don't pigeonhole yourself in things. We're always trying to expand what we can be, and it's just sick. I love music. I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan. you know?
It's kind of a funny thing too. You mentioned about like the '90s, the whole '90s thing coming
Mhm.
back. So I don't have any children of my own, but I have nieces. Oh, somebody has a puppy. Where's the puppy? Who's
We
puppy?
both do.
Oh, nice.
That was Jesse's. It's a 6.
Oh, who's that?
It's a 6er.
Uh, uh, so the '90s stuff
Mhm.
that you were just saying, like, so like my nieces, they're now 2 of them are in college in their first couple years of college, and then I still have a niece that's still in high school. Like they like a few years ago started showing up in flannels and Doc Martens. Like, what's this? But they were like, Uncle Brian, wait a minute, you you played guitar for Candlebox, or you played guitar for Candlebox? I go, yeah. They're like, me and my friends love that band. Like, we didn't realize, like, they just didn't know. Like, they knew what I did for a living, but they didn't realize it. And they're like, oh my God, we love that. Like, do you listen to Alice in Chains? And I was like, yeah, yeah, I listen to Alice in Chains.
I
I'm on tour with the guitarist right now doing so they just like it was watching them just understand all of it and realize it. Like it was a big fashion thing. It had nothing really to do with the music. The Nirvana t-shirts and the flannels and the Doc Martens, which is what they
Mhm.
were doing. And once they started figuring out how all that came to be and what that was, like when I was a kid, like that's when it all happened. You know, and
That's amazing.
yeah, it trips them out hard. It's great.
It was so great because I took Jackson to go see Bobby because he was playing up the street, Bobby Perillis. And
Yeah,
Jack's like, Bobby's like, what do you want to hear? And he's like, I really want to hear Imagine Dragons. And they put together the newest Imagine Dragons song. They like pulled it out. And Jackson was like, like, I mean, every time I bring up Bobby, he's like,
loved it.
He's,
he's
like,
just the man.
stunned,
He's the
amazed.
man. Like, I mean, and,
See
Changed
him,
his
he's
and
life.
oh, Jax felt so good about himself. They gave him a shout out. Like,
Wow.
he was
I
loving
love
it.
it. Is he a musician?
What?
Is he a musician? Does he play music?
No. Well,
Not yet.
he likes the keyboard. Like, he's starting to
Mhm.
get into, like, liking the keyboard. He wanted to play the drums because of Bobby, but
Right.
it just didn't work out. I, like, got him the drums, and then, like, he never really, like, set time aside to kinda, like, do that. But,
Yeah.
he loves music, like, he loves putting it together, like, taking different beats and, like, I see him doing more of, like, something with, like, producing or that kind of thing in the
Mhm.
long run,
Yeah.
That's
Studio
cool.
stuff. Yeah, that's cool though. That's good. You're around it. You're around it, right?
and he loves, like, YouTube. I mean, that was, like, the whole reason I had even gotten into, like, doing any kind of podcast was because he's been saying since he was 3 years old, like, "I'm gonna be YouTube famous."
I love that.
So when he heard that I had the opportunity, he's like, "You gotta take it, like, you gotta do this."
I love it.
But
That's great though.
I en
Into it.
I ended up doing music because, we're like, "We need somebody who doesn't have stage fright."
Right.
And and I was like, "The last thing I'm afraid of is embarrassing myself." I was like, "I do it every day. I'm
Right.
ready. Put me out
That's
there."
yep.
well,
I got
I'm
you.
allowed to talk about it on this show because, like, at the time, it was kind of, like, on the hush hush because everybody was, like, trying to show up. But
Mhm.
we had gone to a house party at Marty's, and there's all these I mean, like, you were supposed to come, Brian. You had got held up last minute. It was, the last time we were in the Super Bowl. So there's a house party. I've never
Oh
played
yeah, I'm trying
an
to think one. Yeah,
instrument. Wait, I've never played an instrument in my life. I'm for the like very rarely can I not post what is going on in my life. Like I'm pretty like constantly doing lives or like whatever, taking pictures. I can't
Mhm.
post anything. I'm at a house party. They hand me a triangle, right? It's Joe Cyber on the drums and like just a whole room of talented people. I mean, jamming out. They hand me this thing. Ask John. I literally played this triangle like I was playing like an electric guitar. I mean, I like, and everybody's like commenting, like, they're like, oh, you're really good on that. Like,
Allie
I
put her
love
I felt
whole
so good
and
about myself. And like, I had never played an instrument. Like, I'm just not like that coordinated. Like, dude, it was great.
yeah,
I felt important and I played with a band.
you had the time of your life on the triangle. It's awesome.
John's like, you have to tell the story about how you played the triangle. I was like, I will. But
Love it.
yeah, I
That's
was like
great.
so happy too. I know I was cheese faced. Like I could feel myself like how happy I was to be there and like doing it. And like I
Yeah,
probably looked so dumb to everybody else. Like I'm like sitting there like
that's great. I'm glad
it
you had
was
a
a
good time.
moment
Yeah,
though.
and it was a wonderful Super Bowl. Couldn't ask for anything more from
They
that
are
Super Bowl.
so fun. And like all your friends are like super talented too.
Yeah,
Like even
yeah.
the ones that aren't even
Well,
doing anything with music. Like every single person at the party was just talented.
very lucky to be like in this area. It's I mean, I know you've been over to the Rib House and through King of Prussia and everything. It's just within like a 3 miles, 3 square mile area. The amount of musicians that that like tour internationally, but are just even the guys that don't tour internationally, just like even a few of the guys that are in the local bands are just outrageously great musicians. You know,
Mhm.
so very. It was like going to musician college around here. Especially that's like one of the big things. Like I always tell any of my guitar students, like always surround yourself with people who I wouldn't say are better than you, but are more experienced or the most experienced, because that that's how you grow exponentially, not only as a person but as a musician, and then
It's
whatever you
hard not to be
do in the
inspired
business.
being around
Yeah.
like I mean, I love being around other people that just love music.
Mhm. Yeah.
They're not in it for the popularity. They're just in it to play and just enjoy it. And
Yeah.
like that's really what it's about at the end of the day.
Yeah. True. Yep. Um,
But
yeah, like
what a cool
even going back to
experience.
what we were talking about earlier, just I need to find like it's just so saturated with just like what you were saying, like with the YouTube, like you could go on YouTube and find a lot of really cool shit, but
Mhm.
like the days of finding the special things, I just it's almost like the it's like too much. It's like a daunting task to even
Yeah.
where like back in the day, like record labels only found best of the best. So there was a
Mhm.
million bands. There wasn't any shortage of people that were out there trying to be a superstar, right? But the labels were almost like the police of that, where they only went out and saw the best of the best. They saw hundreds of bands in a month, like the A&R reps, and we're like, no, 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 no. Whereas these people now, all the no's could just put up stuff on YouTube and use auto tune and
Yeah.
like and picture filters and everything else, and then next thing you know, they're a star on well it started with Vine, right? With Vine,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
like all the so it's just gotten inundated with stuff that like and it's like even if they get famous and they go out on the road, they can't handle their shit on a stage, and that's where it is.
Yeah.
That like I say that all the time. Even like people were even asking me like being in a band that sold millions of records. I'm like they were like, "Why do you still play bars and clubs?" I was, "Oh, because that's the hardest gig you'll ever play. That's what keeps me on my toes. A, it keeps me in front of people, and playing in front of 30,000 people is fucking easy. Playing in front of 40 to 50 people, 60 people, 100 people, depending on the size of the bar or the club, you're under a microscope. That's the hardest gig you'll ever do. And if you could do that, then you can play in front of 30,000, 300,000, doesn't matter.
I think right now is interesting because you have these musicians that they write all the instruments, they do the vocals, and then they don't do live performances because, you know, that then they have to hire the people to
Yeah,
come
right.
out, and then, you hire the session musicians and stuff like that, and that works out a lot of times,
Yeah,
but I feel like there is something you get, like, a special something from, like, getting your friends together and having that, basement jam sesh where you get to incorporate everybody's kinda writing something and adding their seasoning to it,
yeah, right.
and then playing the shows, but I think both are really valid, but I think, valid, ways to go about, your songwriting process, whether you wanna write all the instruments, you wanna do everything, I'm super, super impressed with those people, but I also love the, seasoning you get from, playing with a bunch of people, playing with your friends and jamming it out and playing the garage venue, the garage or, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody puts their stamp on it.
Mhm.
That's how Candlebox wrote. Candlebox was very much from, like, the Jack Kerouac school of writing. It was just stream of consciousness, like, what we're
Mhm.
just going to put out everything that we can. We're in the studio for 6 or 7 hours, and it's literally who has an idea on their voice memo on the phone. And then it's like, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. Oh, that's cool, that's cool." And then if we write 11 songs in one day, great. If we write 3 songs in one day, great. But it was very rapid fire. And, like,
Mhm.
we would worry about, like, condensing it and making it, like,
Tight.
not a hit, but yeah, like, making it, um, interesting for someone to listen to.
Mhm.
Uh, like, later on, we would worry about that later on, but the point was to get the structure of the song, and I mean, songwriting isn't rocket science. It's, there there's there's an order
It's
of
music
operation.
theory.
Yeah, there's an order of operations for it to be a cohesive idea. But yeah, getting everybody's stamp on it is always, like, the best part of it because, they're like your bass player, even if you had a bass line in mind, and I do this all the time with my solo stuff. Like, I'll make a skeleton of drum beats and of bass lines and this and that.
Mhm.
But, like, I have some really talented people around me, so, like, I'm not gonna tell, the founding drummer from Pro Jam what to play on drums. It's just, "Here's what I'm thinking. I want you to do your thing." You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So, and
definitely.
So what would you say is your favorite part? Would it be the songwriting and creating aspect? Would it be the recording, or would it be actual performing?
I mean, I think they all have their spot. They all have their merit. To me, the creation process I would say that's first to performing a distant 3 recording. Uh, I'm just I don't mind being in a recording studio. Um, I do a lot of session work for other artists, which
Mhm.
I actually dig that because I'm in and out. But when I'm in there making a record, I'm like, I got to go there every single day. I'm like, you're basically living there. It's like, 15, 16-hour days. I'm pulling my hair out. The computer crashes, this happens, that happens, a wire goes bad. It's like it's torture. I really don't like making records. Really. I shouldn't say I don't like it. I don't prefer it. So
Okay.
yeah, for me, it's sitting here and writing a song where I'm like, oh my God, this will totally work. Or you get a line right, or you get a rhyme, a word like the pentameter. If the rhyme is 4 lines later, but what you said in those 4 lines is so effective, and then like the the cherry on top, or the tying the bow is like that last word right before you hit a great chorus. You know what I mean? Like that type stuff. That I really enjoy the creation process, and then yeah, and then the performance I would say is second for me.
Like, how does it feel to hear, like, the fans like screaming the lyrics and like the songs that you've done. I mean, like even with Gasoline, like you had performed at that night at Screwballs. I mean, everyone was singing along, and I mean, I know that's a smaller venue, but like I can only imagine how it is like at the bigger venues. How
Yeah.
does that feel to have fans that are that loyal and love you that much that they know every single lyric and are like singing it along?
Yeah. Well, well, that's amazing. I mean, just having anything that you create being sang back to you or sung back to you is, yeah, that's unbelievable. And Dave Grohl had like this great quote about it. He was like, you know, you sing this song and it gets popular, and it doesn't matter how many people are in front of you, but like if 10,000 people are singing the song back to you for 10,000 different reasons. I thought it was like the most profound statement because
That's so
like,
profound.
yeah, right. Like how sick is that? Like I know why I wrote it and what I wrote it about, but I'll never tell because of that exact reason. I would do interviews about it all the time where I would just talk about like I wrote it like what's this song about? What that song about? I was like, what it doesn't matter. Like what does it mean to you? And then Dave, Grohl had made that statement about you sing it to 10,000 people and 10,000 people sing it back to you for 10,000 like singular reasons. It was just a brilliant way to sum it up. So that I would say is the best way I've ever heard it explained, or that I can explain it.
One of the things I wanted to say was that, you were saying we were talking earlier about, like, the legacy bands, like, those bands from the '90s influencing the bands today. I know that there's people listening to Candlebox or listening to Octane that they're taking those riffs, they're taking that music, and they are being inspired to push the genre even further, and I think, like, that's so cool, the influence you've had personally
Yeah,
on, just, like, growing the music scene and inspiring, like, another generation. Like,
yeah,
that's so sick. Like,
yeah. That Man, that's almost like a little bit of a double-edged sword because it's like the most rewarding and like humbling thing ever, but it's also like, fuck, man, I'm getting old, and like there's a generation that's like behind me now because I was the young guy
Mhm,
looking up to other buddies of mine like in the area or like guys that were, I was always the young guy, and now I'm kind of like, oh shit, might be getting to be the older guys now, you know,
mhm,
but so that's kind of like a double-edged sword, but either it's rewarding on both ends. It really is. Like I still even stay in touch with all the even the older guys that are before me because you never stop learning. Like every day's a school day,
mhm.
especially in an industry that's like ever changing. So yeah, yeah, that feels equally as good as, maybe even better than people singing your own lyrics back to you. Is that like you're influencing another like squad of guys coming up that that love music and that are creating great. Like that band Fat Mez, fantastic. Like those guys, I saw them. I was sitting in the Orr House in Seattle City a couple years ago, and I heard this music coming from the other room, and I thought it was a live version of One Way Out by the Allman Brothers Band, and I go, and
Mhm.
it just stopped. I go, oh shit, I think that's the band. That might be the band in there. So like I expected to walk in and see like all guys like older than me playing like this Allman Brothers song, and I walked in and there were kids, like young like 20-year-old kids. I go, and I went up to the one kid. I go, "That you guys just playing One Way Out by the Allman Brothers?" Which I spent a lot of time playing Allman Brothers music in my career. And he was like, "Oh yeah." I go, "Oh my god, who are you? Who are you guys?" And that was like my first introduction to them. But I loved it that like they're playing that music and they're that young and playing it that well.
It's
What
so
advice would you give to artists that I'm not going to say starting out because that's
I was
hard.
literally gonna ask that because I was like, I need advice from
Yeah.
you,
What would
please.
you say to artists that have already kind of at least established some kind of like social media presence and started with the streams? What's some advice that you would give them about even getting out there with touring and everything else?
That like it's just different now. I mean, with the touring, man, is if they could find somebody to kind of maybe help sponsor them out, like just get them out there. 'Cause, I mean, really, the everything with touring now, it takes some money to get out there. It just does. I mean,
Mhm.
that's just the reality of it. It always did, but now more so than ever. But I mean, if you could generate revenue stream from from social media,
Mhm.
that I mean, some of these acts that are out there are generating enough to finance a tour. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's good
So
advice.
yeah, so it's just really, and it all comes down. I mean, what's setting your content apart, and not so much like I go back to what I said earlier. Like I I, I can't stand having to be a content creator
It's
along with being
exhausting.
an artist. It's just a lot. Like now you're doing double the work, and maybe getting half of the return, but at least the one good thing with social media is that it for the most part is free. So it
Mhm.
is you're a walking billboard. So yeah, I don't know. But really, on that end of it, just you got to figure out a way to be a content creator that is you're setting yourself apart. You have a brand, you have a logo. Like I try to do that with my own brand, having my logo and like just having some kind
Right
of a
next
brand
to
that's going to be, yeah, it's going to be recognizable. Like the second you see it, that's me, or that's the
Mhm.
band you're going to see or whatever. Like Breaking Benjamin's their logo, their whole thing. And it was a friend of ours that put that together for him. Is a brilliant marketing tool.
Yeah,
So you need that on that side of things. To me, at the end of the day, it's for the music. If you're a musician, it got to be good. It got to be good. There got to be something to hold on to like that makes it cool. Like if you're a metal band or a grind band, the riff's got to be the shit. Your drummer has to be one
your
billion percent.
drummer, oh, I swear to God, I have the best drummer in
Yeah.
Philadelphia. I wanna put a bag on his head though, so because when we take him out, everybody is like, "Who is
Yeah.
he? I've never seen him before." I'm like, "No, don't look. Yeah, don't take him from me." I always say, like, my advice, and which I'm not nearly I'm not nearly as successful, but when people ask me, I always say, "Support your scene, your
Yeah.
local music scene, and your
Yeah.
local music scene will support you."
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Most of the bills that I get on are because I go out, I see my friends' bands. If you come through Philadelphia, I will come and see you. I will come and see any like if I come out to the shows, and because I come out and I support my local bands and the touring bands always support me, the
Yeah.
local bands support me, and that is community. Your community will give back to you if you give to it, and it's
Yeah,
awesome
I feel and I
community.
honestly I feel like, Brian, you and your friend group are so good with doing that. I mean,
Mhm.
you guys hop on with anyone. Like, you're almost performing every night that there is. By the way, all of his information is down below. You can look up basically any night of the week he's playing somewhere.
Yeah, I'm always around. I'm kind of like, especially now too, since the whole Candlebox thing is done with and that contract's finished. I just I'm so happy to be home because I vacationed at my house, at my home for the last, I don't know, 15 years because
Are your
10
cats
with
happy that you're home?
yeah, yeah, he's thrilled that I'm home. We hang out every day. It's my buddy. He's like my shadow. But yeah, I just I'm just so happy to be home, like just taking a breather, a much needed breather, and yeah, to get back at it. Like I really haven't. I've done more interviews this week than I have done since the last record got released. And it's funny talking about it because it's actually more stuff now I want to talk about than I did then, It's kind of funny.
Now we're gonna wrap it up because I don't want to take advantage because I did tell you like 45 minutes to an hour and we did go over a little bit.
That's
But
okay.
do you know when you are gonna be releasing new Octane music?
Uh, so we're going to be doing some writing in the next couple of weeks. I want to schedule the studio time like as soon as possible. So we're hoping to have at least one new single out before the MMRBQ or release on that day, and we're there May 10th. By the way, with Alice in Chains and 3 Days Grace and Mammoth and Dorothy. So it's a lot of my touring buddies. So, but yeah, I'm hoping to have like at least one new song out, maybe prior to that, so that MMR could be spinning it before we get to the show. And then, yeah, it's going to be this year. It'll 100% be released this year. Um, especially what I was talking about earlier, the stream of consciousness and how fast we wrote with Candlebox. I'm trying to bring that experience into Octane, and just get these guys kind of up to speed with that kind of writing and churning out that amount of creative output in a very short period of time, because then you don't have time to think about it. You just
Mhm.
you can't spend 7.5 months on one song. You just can't. Like it's you need to be at least semi prolific.
Yeah.
And I mean, Danny kind of like gave us the exclusive that you guys have like a whole album from Foster Child also.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. I
waiting
mean,
on the Key West.
Rumors.
I heard part of the Key West song. I was teased with it, and I'm waiting for it to be released.
we have like got it maybe it's probably close to 20 songs on a hard drive that have just been sitting there for a while. I mean, the same thing with like Get Up and Little Sister Heartbreak with Octane. We released it on the day of our reunion this past December, just because they were sitting there like they were just they were just there, and we never released them. I was just release it. I was like, at least it'll kick our ass in the gear of um writing some new music and getting some new music out, and it'll be fun, and we get to play some of it in front of a pile of people at Camden, so that's cool.
I love to hear you play with
I
Octane.
am
Like just the
excited.
whole vibe, the energy, like you guys just look like you're having fun. Like even though you're performing and like it is your job, like at the same time, like you guys look like you're having fun up there.
It's a good time. It's always good reuniting with those guys. It's we got along so good, and we had such a great run. Back in the late '90s and early 2000s, it was super successful. It was positive. There was no like full blown drug addicts or drunks. Like we just legitimately enjoyed spending time with one another and making music. And Brian was kind of the catalyst behind us with the writing again. Like, man, like, we're not getting any younger, and we all really did enjoy that back in the day. I don't think we appreciated it as much because, I was 22 years old when I started that band. So I was a kid really. And those guys were a little bit older than me. I think Brian was 26 or 27 when we started the band, and they were just starting to have families. There was a lot of babies and dogs and everything else, and that just was not in my scope of vision at that point.
Mhm.
So I just kind of was like, I want. That's why I went and did my thing as a hired gun guitar player. But now I think everybody's a little older, a little wiser, just appreciated how unique and how special that whole situation was with those guys. So yeah, we write some new music and put it out. Like I said, I just want to keep going this way. I just want to keep moving forward. I don't want to rewind. But if we're making new music and something happens and it took 20 years for it to for it to go, then so be it. Like I don't know, whatever God's plan is, I'm game.
I can't wait to see what this new chapter brings to you
We're
and
so
all
excited.
the magic that will come out of it with your music.
Yeah.
And thank you
Yeah.
so much for taking the time to come on tonight.
My
Next time, maybe we can get you and Denise on to chat with
Yeah.
us.
We would
All
love
right.
to
His
do
wife
that.
is badass. She is a boss. She is awesome.
Yeah, she's an interesting one to talk to. You should talk to her about it, a lot of the like the marketing and PR strategies and the all that social media presence that I was talking about earlier. She's the expert.
Oh,
That is
that's amazing. I would
wonderful.
love to speak with her about all that stuff.
Yeah, hit
But,
her up.
well, we'll let you go because we already went over. But thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much
And
for coming
we will
on.
send you the link, and this will be out on Wednesday.
Wonderful. All right. I'll let
Right.
everybody know.
Thank
Send
you
me a
so
link. All
Right.
right.
Thank
Bye, ladies.
you.
Have a good one.
Wow.
Oh, so
I'm like,
exciting.
what? I'm starstruck. That was like crazy that we got to talk to Brian Quinn about and like just about so many different things. Just like the
There's going to be
influence.
so many musicians that are going to be tuning into this.
I
Like,
know. I know. It's just like the influence. Like I said, like there are all these amazing bands and that are influencing music coming out now and Candlebox and like Octane and stuff like that. It's just like influencing people now and the fact that they're coming out with new music. It's just like I can't even. I'm overwhelmed with even talking about it. It's so sick.
and like all those guys, they're such role models. Like Brian
I
Quinn, I
know.
mean, he really is a role model. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, he works his butt off. I mean, almost every single night, this
I know.
man is performing somewhere or doing something, and like it's awesome. And I suggest to everyone, if you are from the tri-state area, like Philly, New Jersey,
Mhm.
it's worth it. Get out to King of Prussia or Bridgeport and go watch him play. Like it is so worth it. Harass him to play the slide. It's so worth seeing. Like I'm telling you, it was such a cool experience. And those
I
are such intimate venues also. So it's not like like you're like right there with him and he's like it's just a really cool experience, especially
I
when he's teamed up with any of the other ones.
I'm just like tonight was awesome. Such a good like it's like nights like these make me so happy to be on this podcast.
That was a big one for me. Like I was not going to reach out to him until I literally had all my ducks like in a row, and like I really wanted to like have all of my questions together and really just make it perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm like so happy and I can't wait for everybody to watch this on Wednesday. And I love you, Jesse.
I love
And
you too. I'm like so happy that I get to do this with you and I'm so happy that people like listen in every week.
I know,
Um
like, man, this podcast has been like such a positive thing. And even past the mic with Jamie, I mean,
mm,
we're all just having so much fun with it. And
I know.
honestly, like, I couldn't have done this with anybody else.
Aw, thank you. Like best. I want to thank all our viewers and like, comment, and subscribe. It does actually help us, even though it sounds corny as hell. Thank you, Dennis. You're the best producer we could have asked for, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.